Welcome to Leaders Edge Network. This is part 2 of our kvCore training, focusing on creating your website. My name is Deanna Faye Brown. I'm the team leader of the Mega Icon Connection Realtors team brokered by eXp and a member of Leaders Edge Network. To bring you up to speed, we're here taking a slow and easy pace, learning and understanding kvCore so that we can take this powerful tool and help you put it into play for your business. We've already tackled week 1, activating your profile and getting you started with setup. Now, for week 2, we're looking to change course and concentrate on your public-facing website, taking a very easy, user-friendly format and making it your own. Let's go ahead and get started. To do that, we're going to spend our time today. If you go on the left-hand side, you want to find Web and IDX. Within Web and IDX, you just want to go ahead and click on Website Manager. That's going to take us to our website dashboard. We're going to spend a good amount of time right now in editing our settings. Okay, so if you click on that, and you'll see this is broken down into several sections. There are 7 or 8 sections here, and we're just going to continue to scroll all the way down and work through them. I'll tell you the things that I don't know or the things that I don't spend a lot of time on, and anywhere where I have a recommendation, I'll make it. But again, make sure that you're considering how you want your own personal website to look. You want it to be a reflection of you. And also understand that we're just trying to cover basics today. I'm not looking to make anyone an expert on website design or development. But kvCore, for the most part, is extremely user-friendly. So you can make a lot of changes and just hit refresh to see those changes in real time. And if you don't like them, you can revert back or make a change again. And the system's not going to blow up. So rest assured, it does work very well with you as the user. Okay, so let's get started. If you look here at the website now, at the top with an image, it's got my own personal image in a circle, my name, has my office information. There's a search bar here right at the top of the screen. This layout is all part of Hero. There are 2 templates that you can choose from. You should be defaulted to Hero. There's also Foundation. I have heard in some places that Foundation actually has a couple of components that are no longer leveraged in eXp's model. So I actually recommend, I didn't take the time to investigate that and see if it's true. I just decided I'm just going to leave it on Hero. I like the layout. It's a good starting point, and I'm going to move on. Now let's talk about the homepage widgets. So once you scroll down from the top, you'll see on my website, you have a title line here. On my website, you'll notice in a few places that I'm really zoning in on Burlington County. My time and activities are very varied. I don't spend a majority of my time selling. So the time that I do devote to selling, to lead generation, to traditional real estate, I try to be a little more specific. If I were doing real estate 90% of the time, this is absolutely not what I would recommend, to be so specific and so sort of concentrated to just Burlington County. So for you, give thought to what areas do you want to cover? How broad do you want your geography to reach as you continue to put in your spin on your website? As I continue to scroll down, you'll see that these are considered widgets. And the layout that I've chosen, I have search widget with an image on the side. So I click here and I see sort of a feel-good corresponding image to the opposite side. To get a home value, same thing. I can click on one side, an image that goes with it on the other. Listing alerts, if I want to subscribe for alerts, here's the opportunity for pre-approval with my lender. And then if people still have questions, they can reach out to me. Okay, and then it'll continue on down even further. There's a testimonial section. There are listing search bars. So you'll be able to see our listings, meaning eXp's listings. Just listed, somebody wants to see something new, or recent price reductions. Okay, bio, blog posts, areas we cover, and then finally at the bottom, all of the compliance related information, the office location, MLS disclosure, disclaimer, and so forth. So the point here is where we are in our design process. We have to make a decision about the view of our widgets. So you see how these are large side by side. If I made a change, let's say I go with the standard, which everyone defaults to, and I hit save, it'll ask me if I want to replace my layout. So I'm going to hit yes, and I can simply hop back over to my site and refresh it. And then you'll see how it changes the look of your site. If I scroll back up to the top still looks the same, but then as I scroll down, you'll see how the tiles are formatted. It's much different than the layout on modern side by side. Okay, if I don't like that or I want to try a different one, then you simply go back to your dashboard, try another one and save it, replace the layout as yes, go back to the site and refresh. So I haven't like broken anything and in the change that I make happens in real time. So super easy. It's all about what you like. And again, what you feel sort of all comes together as a reflection of you. As you decide about widgets and how you want that format to look, you also have the ability to decide if you want those widgets to take up the whole page or take up something less than the whole page. So here, these widgets, you'll see they extend from the left side of my screen all the way to the right. If I were to slide this button off, then it would just shrink those widgets a little bit. So you would see white space on both the left and right margins. Again, something you can play with and decide what you prefer. The next thing you can do is start to think about color. In my site, if you take a look at the photo that I've chosen, you take a look at this bar here, the coloring behind more options. As you continue to scroll down, the coloring behind some of these tiles, some of these widgets, that's all based on the color theme that I chose here. I tended to lean more towards whites, beiges, blues, and grays. So I liked the deep blue. But let's say, I don't know, in the spirit of Christmas, let's go with red and save it. And let's see what happens to my site when I refresh it. Yeah, so that's a little bright for me. I prefer soft and subtle. But again, it's going to be the same idea. Play around and decide what combination you like between the widget layout, the photos that you're going to choose, which is what we're going to talk about next, and then your sort of the feel of your site. You'll know sort of what works well. I'm going back with deep blue. That's one that I liked. You'll also, when you look at your site, let me go back to the blue. When you look at the site in its default, you're going to have, I think there was a house with like fall colored leaves on the outside, like maybe a white house that it defaulted to. You have the ability to change that photo, and you can do a number of things with that background image. That's going to happen next as we scroll down on the dashboard. So you see background images. Here, I just have one box checked, and that's an image that I imported. I'll show you that in a minute. Below that, if I scroll down, you'll see that there are a number of photos that are available to you automatically in kvCore to choose from. If you only choose one photo from this list and save, then when anybody goes to your website, that is the one photo that will always appear. If you select more than one photo, more than one image from this section, then it will rotate. So every time somebody goes to your site, it will land on a different one of those selected images. What I've decided to do, and I played around quite a bit, I looked at the various images that kvCore offered, but I also happen to have a Shutterstock account. So what I decided to do is I scrolled down a little bit further, and you'll see you have the ability to upload your own image. So what I did is I went to Shutterstock, where I have an account, and I have another picture here that I've identified that I like, that I would like to make a second alternative on my site. So I found this photo and I'm ready to download it. There are a number of sites, not just Shutterstock, but there are a number of free sites where you can go and get stock photos at no cost. A couple of them that I know of, there's unsplash.com, there's istock.com. I think there's another one called Pexels. I think it's Pexels, Pexels.com. So there are plenty of resources that you can find on the web that won't cost you anything, where you can download photos for free and use those on your website. What you want to make sure of, and this is really important, is that there is an ideal size for the photo in order to make the image appear correctly on your site. If you notice with the photo that I imported, if you look at it here, it almost looks stretched. But in actuality, when I downloaded it exactly to the specifications that are indicated, so that when you look on my site, it actually does appear exactly as it should, nice and crisp and well proportioned. So when I go to Shutterstock, in this case, I'm going to click on custom. That size parameter, I'm going to click on custom size. It's going to be 1600 pixels wide by 650. That's 1600 by 650. And I'm just going to get started. I'm going to move everybody's face again. And then I'm going to go ahead and download. I downloaded it as a JPEG. And then once the design is downloaded, it's going to be as simple as me going into my downloads. Just make sure I have that page open. I'm going to scroll down to the image section. Okay, I'm going to go into my downloads and I'm going to drag and drop that photo right here into my website. Okay. And then once I do that, should put my photo at the top. Let me just refresh it. Oh, I'm sorry. I drug it in, but I didn't hit upload, that little upload button. Okay. So once it tells me that the upload is successful, I get that little message in the bottom left-hand corner. Now I can go back to my saved images above, and you'll see that I have two images clicked off, the original tree image and then the one that we just updated. So now if I go to my website, and of course it's going to keep opening the other image. Let me save it. There we go. Okay, and so there's the other image. The trick is make sure that you've gone ahead and downloaded it to the proper specification. Write down 1600 by 650. Okay, so you can take a personal photo, or a photo maybe if you are a runner, for example, and you run a marathon and you want to be able to, have that as a reflection on your site. There's so much that you can do here to personalize it. Okay, and it's very easy. Next thing we want to move on to is secondary logo. And I'll mention here, as well as in a couple of other places in kvCore, you always want to make sure that you're managing compliance properly. So you do have the ability, if you have a team logo or a personal logo, you can upload it here. Just make sure that you've already dealt with all of the compliance approvals that are necessary within EXP. For me, for now, the logo versions that I happen to have with my team logo, I have one in black and I have one in blue and orange. So I'm working on getting something in white that I can go ahead and insert that will look cleaner. I didn't like how the other ones looked, so for now, I didn't upload a logo, but you would do it the same way, simply drag and drop. Okay. All right, so let's continue to scroll down. We're going to keep working through all of these options. and a lot of them now will move through pretty quickly. Resources page. Remember, on the resources page, one of the things that a potential client could do was reach out to the lender. Be careful. If you don't have a lender, then you may want to consider hiding the resource page, because if they go and enter their information, it's not going to go anywhere if you're not leveraging that lender partnership. So if that's the case, then you would just toggle this on to hide the resource page. Millions mapped. This is another one of those areas where I've heard from some sources that this doesn't work exactly perfectly, sometimes can be glitchy. And overall, I don't want my client's experience to even have a possibility of glitchy, so I'm going to just hide it and turn it off. WCAG is something beyond our scope, but this defaults to hidden, so just leave it as hidden. Okay. The next couple, you have the ability to hide your office information. So if I go back to my home page, scroll all the way down to that compliance section that was in blue, this is where the Montclair office appears. You can add additional information and additional address, but you want to make sure it's an address that's approved either as a branch office or that you've gotten approval from compliance in New Jersey to go ahead and add that address to your site. Again, just a compliance flag. That's not what I'm here to talk about today, so you'll just want to make sure that you follow up with New Jersey. You also have the ability to hide a client's option to print the flyer. I don't know why you would do that. If they've gone through the effort of coming to your site and generating a search for properties, I would think that you would want them to be able to print it out. Limited listing labels. This gives you the ability to remove many of the labels that appear on the website by default. I am not turning this on. I like the website the way that it is with the labels as they are. So I'm just going to leave this be. The next couple of sections, phone and lead registration. These are two areas that are going to directly impact your ability to get leads from your website. It's encouraged by kvCore, and I tend to agree that you don't want to mandate that a client provides you with a phone number in order to be able to leverage the search features on your website. Typically, that turns more people off than turns people on to you and your services. So I leave phone off. I don't require that. The next thing you have the ability to decide is how many times you want a client, potential client, to access features on your website or to run a search before they have to register with the site. In my case, I think it defaults to normal after one view, right? So in the drop down here, you see normal one property view. I decided to change that and customize it for myself, that I want to give a client the ability to do 3 searches. So in that case, I just changed it to require registration after a specified number. And then I set that number to 3. You can set it to whatever number that you want. Just make sure that you hit save for any changes that you make. Okay. Again, I want to be able to, for me personally, I want to be able to get client information, but I also, I always liken it to, walking into the furniture store and not even having a chance to see what's in the store before somebody's asking me what I want to see. I kind of like to explore a little bit before I start asking questions. The next couple of sections, we have website title and we have homepage meta description. So you see website title, connecting Burlington County with Home Sweet Home. This is what I've selected. This title here has a direct feed into SEO, into search functionality. So you want to identify things here that either say real estate, house, home, or geography. Something that somehow, if somebody were to say, homes for sale in Burlington County, well, I've hit on home, I've hit on Burlington County with some of the verbiage here. Not that you have to have all those words, but again, you want to put words here that are going to somehow help drive traffic to your site. And if I go back up to the top, just to remind you, that's where this website title appears, here in this color bar. The other thing, you have a homepage meta description. This description doesn't actually appear anywhere on your site, but if somebody is Googling for you, these are some of the keywords that you want to be able to come up in the search. Okay, so again, I'm concentrating on Burlington County, and I even mentioned a few of the towns as well. And then I put eXp Realty in there, again, in an effort to draw traffic to my site. Ask unit I have on so that people do have the ability to ask questions, or, sort of that for further information, contact us. I leave that on. Just like what we saw up here with the homepage meta description doesn't appear anywhere on your site. Same thing with the recruiting text. This does not appear anywhere on your site, and it is, at least it was in mine, should be in yours as well. Should already by default be there. So I just left this recruit text where it was. And I'm going to show you a little bit more in a second about how to customize the recruiting link on your website. Okay, so let's keep going down. You have the next three sections. You have custom header, custom body, and custom footer. Just like what we did at the top, where you can play a little bit, choosing different photos, choosing different color themes, you can do the same thing here to play around and see what happens with custom header, body, and footer. Let me just show you if I typed in hello in custom header and hit save. If I go back to my website and refresh, and it may not because of the tiles that I chose, but typically there would be a section up here where it would then say hello. I think you can't see it because the tile structure that I chose goes all the way from the left margin to the right margin. Okay. But then I can just, if I didn't like that, I can simply remove it and save again. The one thing that I did do for myself is I went ahead and added the New Jersey broker's office to my website. When I did that in the custom footer, if you scroll all the way down to that blue section, you'll see that the information for the broker's office is here. Okay. So you can, if you had a secondary address, you could enter that information here, again, making sure that you're addressing any compliance requirements. There are some states where, in addition to like MLS disclaimer, the broker's office might require that you attach certain disclaimers. So you could add those items here. I'm not aware of any of those types of things in New Jersey, but if there ever were something that arose, you would just copy a link right in here to that document or disclosure or disclaimer, save it, and then that link would be available on your site. Okay. Conversion code, that's something that's there that I am not touching. Okay. I'm not looking to touch any code involved with the website. One thing I don't want to do is cause something to not work the way it works. But let's move on to the custom chat widget. This is something that I think is pretty cool. If you go back to my site, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, I've got this little, it's a Facebook, or I guess Meta now, right? Messenger icon, okay? And I could click on it, and then you'll see that it's pulling up a window, and it's asking if somebody wants to chat with me, referencing back my Facebook business page. What you can do is you can link the chat feature in your Facebook business page to your website. And that's a really easy thing to do. I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to also drop the instructions in the chat if you want to go ahead and pick those up. To do that, you're going to go to your Facebook page, your business page, and on the left-hand side, you want to scroll all the way down. And it's been really interesting today because this happened to me first thing this morning too, that these settings was gone. There it goes for some reason. So All the way down on the left-hand side, you want to find Settings. And then under Settings, you want to go right below General to Messaging. When you're in the Messaging menu, go down to the setting, kind of about halfway down. See where it says Add Messenger to your website? It's very easy. You just click Get Started. And then from there, it's going to ask you to set up your chat plugin. I already did this, so I'm not going to go through all the steps again, but you'll set it up. You'll click Copy. And then once you've clicked Copy on the Facebook side, you just hop back over to your kvCore. You right click here in the custom chat widget, right click to paste, and then save it. And then once you do that and go back to your site and refresh it, you're going to see that little widget in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drop those instructions in the chat so you can see that. Okay. Well, I might have too many things going on at once. So I'll make sure that we include that as one of the things too that we upload on the Facebook page. If that document didn't drop in for you, it's a very simple set of instructions you can see here on my screen. Okay. So going back to our website design, we've saved our custom widget for Facebook. So now if you scroll down and you see Facebook username for chat, you don't need to include this information because you just went ahead and connected the icon, the messenger icon, directly to your website. So you can just leave this blank. You also have the ability here, you could have done it in the footer up above. We saw that, or you can do it here, add an additional office address. Just again, make sure that you're meeting all compliance requirements in the state that you're working in, most of us in New Jersey, before adding a secondary address. Your phone number is already filled in. Make sure it's correct, and your email address should also be correct. This is the same address that you would have used to log into kvCore. Okay, so we're getting there. We're making some progress. Now let's talk a little bit about testimonials. We're still in the section of the dashboard where we're working on design, not on actual testimonial content. We're going to get to that in a few minutes, how to actually type in or paste in testimonials from different clients and colleagues. Here, in terms of content, I'm not an active participator in Zillow. When I went to this section of my website dashboard, of my back end here, I do want to alert you that there was an email address here for Zillow reviews that was not my email. And it actually wasn't anybody in EXP's email. And I'm not sure what causes that. I'm not sure if it's something that has to do with Zillow specifically, or if it's something within EXP. I'd imagine it has something to do with Zillow because this happens to be a RE/MAX agent. So I'm fairly certain that EXP would never have allowed that to happen. I really think it has something to do with Zillow. But so you want to make sure of two things here, that you definitely review the email address that's here and make it yours. And then decide if you want to hide or make available Zillow testimonials. What happens there is if you're at your website and somebody clicks on a testimonial, it'll take them to a secondary page. I don't want to do it right now, but it'll take them to a secondary page where on the right-hand side, it'll include Zillow testimonials. So because my email address wasn't there and somebody else's was, all of those Zillow testimonials over to the right-hand side belong to that person. Okay, so make sure you address that. Inherit child testimonials. This is something that would apply if you have a team platform where you want to be able to leverage team member testimonials for the team leader's site and vice versa. You would turn that on. my platform. This is a single agent website platform.
Okay.
Deanna, I have a
Yes,
question.
sure.
Is there any way you can add Google testimonials, like reviews or anything like that?
That's a really good question. So I think the way that you would do that, it's the one option that you have here in like the back end setup is with Zillow. But I think that the way that you would do that is probably through a custom page where you would make a link to your Google reviews. And I'll show you, I'm not going to show you exactly how to do that, but the concept of a custom page we're going to get to in a couple minutes. So remind me, Sabrina, to circle back to that. If I don't answer your question when we get to custom pages.
All right, thanks.
That's cool. Yeah, sure. Okay, so if we continue to scroll down, we're still working on the dashboard setup. You do have the ability in looking at your site, if you would prefer to go with a video feed here behind your name and image, you can do that. Feedback that I've heard, this has mixed reviews. Sometimes it slows down the sort of freshness and functionality of your website. I prefer to just go with the picture background, the still background, but that is something that you can do. If you are going to tie a link to a YouTube video, you only want the video ID number. You don't want the full URL, and that number would go here. If you didn't want the ability to chat, like with Facebook Messenger, you wanted to turn that off, you would just toggle it off here to hide it. I already identified up above that I wanted to use those full width widgets. So I'm working all the way left margin to right margin. That's why this is on. The next two reference color for the header. If you look at the website, if somebody clicks on the search button, if you choose color in your header, either the black or I think the other one was primary color, then this bar up at the top of the screen, which now is white behind the EXP logo, white behind all of these search options, it would be black, or I think the other one is like a really dark blue. I like the white. So to keep the white, I just leave the black and the primary turned off. You can hide your office name on your home page. This is something that I've toyed with because there's something about my MLS. It's really funky. I don't know why, and it's maybe a little bit of my my OCD rarely rears its head, but it does for some reason with this little number 2 at the end of my office address. Whatever you see here on your page directly ties to whatever MLS is associated with your kvCore profile. So this has something to do with bright. A lot of you are maybe in Monmouth Ocean or Garden State, so you shouldn't see this. So what I can do is I can hide the office name, and then I can go back to the website and refresh and see it removes. But now the thing I'm not sure about is that I really don't have a prominent area. I could go back in my profile and add the word New Jersey somewhere into my my name subtitle, like either maybe New Jersey Mega Icon or New Jersey Connection Realtors, something of that effect. But I can't make up my mind. But again, you can always make changes, revert back, depending on what you like and don't like. If you don't like the circle and prefer a square for your own personal image, you can make that change. If you don't want your image there at all, you can make that change and hide that image. You can decide that you want to have a dark background image so that this photo in the background will have like a bit of a darker, more shadowy hue. And you can also change to use either a large background or a small background, and it'll affect this picture in the back, just how it appears. Again, just play around with it and decide what you like, what you don't like. Okay. As we keep going, we're probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the way there on this page, so we're making good pace. Let's talk a little bit about custom navigation. So these are the labels, if I look at my site, that appear here in the top right: search, sell, finance. So we know search is going to take us to a robust search platform within our kvCore. Sell is if we have a client that's interested in selling, wants to get in touch with us. Finance is going to take us to our loan officer. Other, you'll see, has been built out because of things that I've added. As you add testimonials, as you add a blog, you will see that these items automatically begin to populate. They won't populate when there's zero data on the back end, but once you populate at least one testimonial and at least one blog, they'll become available to you. If I wanted to change the name of any of these titles, I could. So maybe I don't like the word other. Maybe I prefer the word more. So I can go here in this section, custom navigation. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to leave search. I like sell. I like finance. I like resources. But maybe this one here, I want to click and change to more and save it. Okay. The other thing that I can do is I have the ability to add a link. There is something that defaults right now. If you go in your kvCore and if you scrolled all the way down on your website design, on your site manager tab, come down to this section, we're hiring, and you're going to see a link. And when you click on it on your website, it's just a super generic, 60 or 90-second video done by kvCore that could be used on any brokerage website anywhere. It's extremely generic, has nothing to do with EXP and has nothing to do with you. At EXP, you actually have a link that's personalized to you for the Join app. And the way that you can find that is you just, in your web browser, you just type in your name, .exprealty.careers. And when you type in your name, it should follow the same format that your email address does, your EXP email. So my EXP email has that hyphen in there in my last name. So once I type it in that way, .exprealty.careers, it takes me to the Join app page, but look what happens at the bottom. It's got my name and my phone number. So now, even though I'm going to a general page that's shared and used by all 70,000 agents across EXP, I now have the ability to somehow personalize it and give a potential new agent a way to contact me. So what I can do here is I can copy this link that's personalized to me. I can go back to my kvCore and I can replace that generic link with this one and then save it. And that's what I did here, okay? And then the other thing that I did is I wanted to change the label of we're hiring. I wanted it to be something reflective of EXP. So I put in Join EXP Realty. So now if you go back to my website, whoops, and you take a look, whoops, I didn't hit refresh. Okay, so now you see other is now more. Now you have the Join EXP Realty. And if I click on it, it's going to take me to that Join app with my information at the bottom. And it's going to have all of the same great content available to anybody who is exploring EXP and trying to find out what all the fuss was about. Okay, so this is a great resource to tie back to your website. Below that, and this is where I referenced a little bit, Sabrina, when we talk about custom pages and custom categories. You can't do anything at this moment if you're following along in the order that I am, and you go through this for your own website. In the moment, you're going to want to leave custom pages and categories for navigation blank. You have to go and create content in another section before you can come back and talk about the buttons for navigation. In other words, if you look at my website, Discover Burlington County, I couldn't put this title, this tag of Discover Burlington County until I went in and created all these links first. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And this also, Sabrina, is where you might leverage this to be able to, learn more about Sabrina or hear more about Sabrina. whatever, you wanted to customize it to, and then you can put links to any place that you have testimonials or reviews.
Okay, thank you.
So if you keep scrolling down, we'll come back to that at the end. Again, if you need to hide resources or finance because you're not working with a lender, you could do that here. And if you don't want anything on your website having to do with attraction or with agents joining EXP, you can hide that here. Okay. And then those things would just remove themselves from your site when you refresh. We're getting to the bottom. Okay. Next, you have listing carousels. As we scroll down the page, once you get below the widgets and the testimonials, these are the listing carousels where the properties actually rotate like a carousel. If you wanted to change these titles, you could. My listings just listed, just reduced. You could all change here. You do also have the ability here and here with the widgets where you can create your own customized link or own customized search results. That's a little bit beyond what we're going to cover today. But if you have any interest in wanting to know how to change either what a widget represents or what one of these carousel represents. And so let me give you an example. Let's say I know somebody on our team who does a lot in Monmouth and Ocean County and wanted to concentrate on waterfront properties. So she wanted one of her carousels to be all waterfront properties. Maybe you want one of your tiles, one of your widgets to be waterfront properties or golf properties or 55 and over properties. Or maybe you, in addition to all of these widgets, wanted to be able to zone in on condos and townhouses. You have the ability to do that, but that's sort of like level 2. And we're just working through basic today. But if you want to learn that, let me know and I can get you the resources and help talk you through some of that. Okay. And then as we continue to scroll down, still working on the site manager, you can, again, add tagline information here. So there are 2 different places on this screen where I have entered connecting Burlington County with Home Sweet Home. If I type something different here from what I typed above, then what I typed in the second field at the bottom is what's going to override what I had typed in the top field. The difference is the reason that it's in 2 different places is because the field up at the top is tied to SEO. The field at the bottom, this one here, is just more about having a tagline title on your website. Okay, so I just use the same exact thing in both places. You also have the ability to identify what properties you want to be able to pull into your carousels. So for me, I didn't want to pull in any commercial properties. Again, I don't sell 80, 90, 100% of the time. So I'm looking to be pretty specialized in the traffic that's pulling into my website. I absolutely encourage you, if your primary function is selling, to just leave every single option checked here. Because if you receive commercial leads and referrals from your site, then you're going to give those over to, you're either going to sell that commercial property or assist that buyer yourself, or you're going to send it to an EXP commercial agent and collect a referral. So don't limit yourself in revenue opportunities. You can toggle on to only show your counties, or you can toggle off to expand beyond your MLS area to cover the entire state. This next section here, I leave toggled on. It's a very weird way of describing it, but let's say somebody typed in the word Princeton and they forgot the E or they missed the E. kvCore is smart enough to guess that they probably meant Princeton. And so they'll pull in any search results that are actually Princeton, despite the fact that the searcher misspelled the city name. Okay, so I leave that turned on. Manual listings on a website. I don't have any manual listings, but that would again sort of take customization to sort of a level 2 beyond the scope of where we're at today. And I also left the ability for neighborhoods and schools to be identified in my search results. I left that turned on. When listings are appearing on your search, I chose that it defaults to price, I believe. I wanted to be able to show days on the website because I wanted to take the newer data and make it more prominent first, so that if people see these carousels at the bottom, they should see the things that are newer, not older, based on my criteria of days on website. I left the default display for my search as a map, but you have the ability to make some other choices there. So that means when somebody is on your site and they click the search button, they're going to get a map. Okay. If you wanted to see what some of these other options look like, it's the same mindset we've carried the whole way through. Just click on it, choose something, save it, go back to your website and refresh and see if you like it or don't like it. A lot of this is going to be trial and error to find your groove and your personal preference. Okay. Then the other thing that I did at the end or at the bottom, when you're looking at your search function, this is it's a pretty robust search feature that kvCore offers. And you'll see that there are a number of filters that a potential client can apply, from price to bedrooms and bathrooms to, various property criteria. But what I wanted to do was go ahead and add just a little bit more functionality to that search. And what I did was I looked in this drop down, which is pretty large, to find additional search criteria that I could make available to someone on my website. Now, be careful. You don't want to be so specific in choosing that additional criteria that you end up creating the possibility of somebody getting no results. The other thing I will tell you, what I tried to do first, ultimately I landed on adding elementary school, middle school, and high school to my search. But what I tried to do initially was school district. School district is in this dropdown. But once I added that feature, I went in and tried to experience it as a client would, and school district was all numerically driven. I don't know the numbers of each school district in the state of New Jersey, and I'm certain the client wouldn't either. So it's important that as you make some of these changes, go back to the site and test it out and see what the client would experience before you make those changes permanent. I ended up choosing elementary, high school, and middle school because when I went and tested them, they are actually the names of the schools. Okay. So again, understanding the client's experience, and then you can hit save and you can modify that at any time. And then those changes, once you go back to your website and refresh, they get saved real time. Okay, so that's where I wanted to spend time with the site navigator, the site manager. The other couple of things that I just want to show you, we're going to hop on over. If you go back to Web and IDX, back to the top with your website manager. Now let's take a look at site content and blog. And real quick, before we do those, I want to show you one thing in embeds. If you are a QR code person, this QR code under embeds is specific to your website, and you can leverage that on any of your print materials. As it even mentions here, put it on your car. Somebody walking past your car can copy that QR code and go right to your website. So that's available to you if it's something that appeals. Let's go back to site content. There's a couple of things that I just want to show you here that are important. Testimonials. This is where you would add client and colleague feedback if you wanted it to appear directly on your homepage. And I added a couple of things here. It's very easy to do. All you do is add testimonial. It'll open a new box like this, give who wrote it. You can copy and paste, or you can type in the text and click add. Once you do that once, if the format of your website, if you chose a tile layout or a widget layout that included testimonial, Once you enter one testimonial, then this section here will appear. Once you add multiple testimonials, then you'll get the ability to scroll through them like this. Okay? That's easy. And again, something that you might want to keep up on, monitor, maybe even give yourself a little calendar reminder every 60 or 90 days to update it, to change them out, or to add to it. You can also update your Zillow settings from here as well. Next thing has to do with service areas and SEO. This is important, again, from an SEO standpoint, and it's not something that you would realize just looking at your site. But if you scroll all the way down, your site is initially going to default. I think it's going to be every town covered by your MLS will be here. So if I was interested in Bordentown, I could, as a user, I could click on Bordentown, and that link would take me to this page all about Bordentown real estate. I could see the most popular listing, the most expensive listing, and also the least expensive. And then I could get some additional information by scrolling down about what actually is happening in the real estate market in Bordentown specifically. If I wanted to attend open houses or wanted to see what open houses were scheduled, I can even get that level of detail from this page. The challenge is, though, is that the way it's set up now, before I have any intervention, there's no way to tie this to SEO and to my site. What I want to be able to do is make sure that if somebody's searching for homes in Bordentown, that they see my site as an option to get that information or to perform that search. This is where you're going to do that. Under site content, you go to service areas and SEO. If you don't do anything here, then the towns that appear at the bottom of your website, all of those towns here, will stay as they are, and the client will still have a perfectly great experience being able to click on any of those towns and get the data. Once you start populating data here, then this list immediately edits and changes to be reflective of only what you have here. So it doesn't add to it. If there were 50 towns there previously under the default, and I put one town here, those 50 towns go away and you only see the one town, which is why now you see, like roughly 30 towns here, because I went and identified all of the towns in Burlington County. As you add to this list for SEO purposes, it doesn't just have to be towns. You can also add zip codes. You can also add neighborhoods. In my experience, I played around a little bit with the neighborhoods. Just be careful, because if you get too specific, sometimes you'll be disappointed with the search results. And again, you don't want the client to experience a search and get no results. So what I chose to do is I just added by town. So like when I was looking for Bordentown, I just start typing Bordentown, and you'll see that there's a lot of options that come up. I looked for the city, not for a neighborhood, not for an area, but for a city. I could also do zip codes. And if I did a zip code and added it here, the actual zip code, not the town name, but the zip code is what would appear on the website. Okay. So I just went by towns. And when I added the town, I went back after adding it and I created keywords. This is the piece that then ties your website to somebody searching, homes for sale in Bordentown. Okay. What I put for each of the 30 towns, and I just typed it once and then did copy and paste on each of these lines individually. But I just put homes for sale, houses for sale. And then I just copied and pasted all the way down on each of these towns. Again, you're trying to drive traffic to your website. And this is just one of many ways that if you were to leave this blank or not leverage this section at all, you'd be missing some opportunity. It's not going to drive traffic only to your site, but again, you don't want to miss out on the opportunity. Okay. So that is service areas and SEO. The last two things are custom pages and blog. Custom pages, what I decided to do, if we just take a quick look back at my website, is I decided to create links, and I'm not all the way through. I want to be able to have 30 links here to tie to the 30 towns that I've identified in Burlington County on my list. But what I've done is I've created a custom page so that if somebody clicks on one of these, they're going to go to the town site for each of those Burlington County towns to learn more about the town, maybe the services that they offer, get a sense of the resources. I actually also have the high school district. If I tried to put every elementary school district, my list would go right into Pennsylvania. It'd be too long. So I'm going to limit this to the 30 town sites plus the high school district that covers, I'm going to try and, I think there's 4 or 5 high school districts maybe that cover a majority of these towns. So I'll pull those links in here. And the way that you do that is you just go to custom pages. And what I did was you want to create the title for your page. So in my case, I went with the Discover theme. So I don't know if I did this one yet, but let's say Discover East Hampton with my exclamation point. And so I'm going to real quick just open a web browser, find the East Hampton website. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to scroll down here to the link section to URL. And I'm going to copy and paste that link for East Hampton. Okay. So going back to the top, I'm going to call it Discover East Hampton. And then the first time that I did it, when I created the first one, I had to create a new category to put it under. And that's where I created the category Discover Burlington County. In your case, Sabrina, if you wanted to come up with like, learn more, hear more, what people say about Sabrina, whatever you wanted to call it, more other resources. You could give it a name here the first time, and then every time after that you go to create another site. So when I did my first town, I had to do create and called it Discover Burlington County. But now every town that I add after Discover Burlington County is already available to me as an option. And then I can just scroll down. I remove everybody's head again. And hit save. And then once I do that, and then I go back to my site and hit refresh. Okay, and then go to my list. Now you see Discover East Hampton.
Okay, thank you.
Has been added to the list. So what you can do is where I copied and pasted a link for the town site, you can copy and paste a link to like your Google review page, or any page for that matter. If there are, and I've said this before last week, as you think about your clients and your sphere and how you might categorize them in different ways, if a big part of you and your life are centered around athletics or are centered around veterans, or maybe you're a car lover, then maybe there are resources here that you can, where you can create links to different pages and data points that could be meaningful. Again, just additional ways to drive traffic to your site, but to also give people a glimpse into who you are and create a place where people that know you and feel connected to you in other ways can leverage your real estate services. Okay. The last thing that I want to show before we take about 15 minutes to just talk about express offers is I just want to show you blog. Blog is super easy, and I've never done it before in my life. And I'm proud to say that I sat down at 9 o'clock last night and did one for the first time. And it was so easy and can be a lot of fun. So again, you're thinking about what you want your website to look like, what your personality is, and what your messaging to be. What I did is I just clicked on add post. And for my first post, I decided to do something around Thanksgiving. When you click on add post, you have to give your blog a title, that particular post, and then you literally just start typing. That's it. And then when you're done and you've reviewed it and spell checked it and so forth, when you're ready to publish, you just hit publish. I don't want to save it. Once I hit publish and I go back to my site and I refresh, then I scroll down and now I've got my first blog post. And then as you continue to blog, the tiles will continue to populate here. Now I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it will end up showing either, I think 4 maybe posts at one time, the most recent, but don't quote me on that. But right now I only have one, which is why you're only seeing one tile. Okay, so this is sort of just a high level overview to get you started, to give you some things to think about. I will tell you that I went ahead and marked my calendar of January 10th to make sure that I take the Christmas tree photos off of my website. But I do like feeling that whatever people are seeing when they come to my site is somehow tied to something timely in the world, that it almost like subliminally gives the impression that I pay attention to this and that I don't have it on autopilot. So going into the, coming out of the holiday season, I'll switch over to a winter theme and then a spring theme, because again, I just think it does send that subliminal message that you give this thought and attention and that there is a person behind the site. Okay, so I hope that you found some of that information helpful. And again, for those of you who are going to use this video and follow up after the fact, I hope that you can stop and start and take the time to be able to really build for yourself. How do we get that link if it doesn't work just yet? Can you tell me, Teresa, can you tell me what link?
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
The link for our personal careers page, because I might have typed it in wrong, but
Let's
is it
see.
just defaulting? Like something that.
There you go.
Oh,
so just
screenshot that.
Don't put the period, the dot in between your first and last name. But that the link should work. Because it didn't work for me initially, but the problem that I had is that I wasn't including the hyphen, and the hyphen was important. So try it out a couple of different ways and then you should be okay.
Great.
And Gary, if Gary, so does that help you, Teresa?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
so much.
good. Yeah, sure. Gary, to answer your question, if you're still here, if you have the wrong MLS, I had that same situation too. I actually was defaulted to, I think, Monmouth Ocean. The way that you can most easily correct that is just go to the chat feature right within your kvCore, like your backend dashboard. So here in the bottom right, and just click on this chat feature. It'll try with the first couple of things that you type to give you an automated solution, but then you'll always get the ability to talk with a person. I talk with a person, and in both cases, my issue or question was addressed within an hour. So don't be alarmed when it says, we try to get back to you the same day. They're really just giving themselves the benefit of setting low expectations, I think. But in reality, I got really prompt response going through the chat. And that actually worked a lot faster than some of the other routes I've heard people go to get that resolved. But that's where they can go in and fix your MLS. Just make sure that you're clear that your MLS is wrong and you need to change it, that you're not trying to add a second MLS to your website, because those are 2 totally different requests. Okay, so hopefully that helps.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
We've now wrapped up our second session of our kvCore training. So what's on tap for you? Well, first, time to take action. You now have the tools you need to begin personalizing your EXP website. Remember, if you desire, pursue your lender partnership to be able to add layers of functionality to your website. Build out your service areas for SEO and get started. Bite the bullet and write your first blog. Next, what are some things you want to think about going forward? Well, consider recent clients, colleagues, and other professionals that you've worked with and solicit testimonials from them that you can add to your website. It adds well to your credibility and to the legitimacy of your business. Also, think about custom pages on your website. And as I've said so many times from the beginning, kvCore gives you room for creativity. So use it, work it to your advantage. Leverage relationships outside of real estate, partnerships, and interests that bring you and the people that you share interest with together, and let that work for you and your website. And then look ahead. We know that coming up, we're going to be working on importing a client database. You want to give some thought to how you're organizing those contacts. Get ready because that's what's coming up in session 3. So hopefully you found today's session informative and helpful. Now it's time to press pause and get started on your site.